Hey, welcome to this episode. We're looking at transforming now everything that we have done in the previous two episodes. So if you haven't watched the previous two episodes, I suggest you go and check out at least the first one. We are now creating our adventure. We need to move forward. I prefer to work within constraints. I like to create parameters into which we can then work rather than just having the infinite. So I look at what resources are available to us for Lesnes Abbey in particular. And I made a little bit of a list. We've got the mulberry tree. That's a curiosity. It's an unusual thing. We should play with it. We've got the mulberry tree. We have the brewery. We have an abbot and monks, or canons. I'm going to call them monks moving forward. We have abbot and monks. We have a crypt and a holy hole, which is also unusual. There's not that many of them around. Holy hole designed... Well, go watch the previous episode. We've got the cursed swampland. Cursed swampland. So, 5 things. And we also know, and this is the more mundane side of the story, we know that the Abbey was never financially successful because of the curse. They always kept making financial blunders. So that starts to give me some ideas. Next port of call. Who is going to be our bad guy? We ostensibly need someone who's doing something. Otherwise, the Abbey is absolutely fine. So who is doing something naughty, something bad? I feel like it should be the abbot. Because the abbot is the one that everybody leans on, that everybody looks to. Oh, the monastery's failing, or the abbey's failing. Oh, you need to do this. Oh, you need to do that. Oh, you need to do the next thing. Okay, fair enough. So the abbot is our primary suspect. What does the abbot want? Why is the abbot... What's their goal? Goal and want are 2 different things. So I think the abbot wants recognition. The abbot wants to be recognized as someone who's turned this monastery around, who has done the right thing, who has made money for the church or for the god that they serve. And that's what they want. They want recognition. But they can't get it because the swampland is all around them and they can't drain the swamp because the bloody swamp is it's impossible. It costs too much money. But everyone expects them to make money somehow. And the brewery, well, we know from the map, the brewery was not a large structure at all. You're not making thousands of barrels of ale. You're making a couple dozen at best. That's not going to raise a huge amount of money. Plus, as a monastery, you have to provide food and shelter for those in dire need. There are pilgrims who wander past the church on the pilgrimage from the port town to the capital, but they don't spend a lot of money. They come and pray, they go and look at the holy hole, they go ooh and ah, and yes, you can sell some favors and things, but you're not making a vast amount of money out of that. What can he do to make money to prove that he has value? That gets me to thinking about the assets that we have, and I keep looking down here, because here are my notes. I've made extensive notes, and I'm like, okay, so we've got the mulberry tree. Mulberry tree was originally put in place to make silk. But silkworms take quite a long time. They've got to eat the leaves, and they've got to go into their pupating stage where they build their cocoons, and that's where the silk comes from. So if you've got lots of little silkworms making silk, perhaps if we made the silkworms bigger, then they'd make more silk per silkworm. And if you make the silkworms bigger, you then get giant silkworms. And I quite like the idea of giant rampaging silkworms. But you then need to look after these silkworms, and you need to keep them somewhere. So we can keep them in the crypt, which we haven't yet designed in the map. So we can go back and now add in a giant silkworm pen, which I think could be quite fun. But looking after giant silkworms can be dangerous, because giant silkworms, as we all know, or we all will find out, giant silkworms, they can't eat mulberry leaves. You can only get to a certain scale eating vegetation. And yes, elephants get particularly large, but they eat entire trees. So perhaps the silkworms need to eat something a little bit more nourishing than just mulberry leaves. We know that there is a forest that surrounds the northern half of Abbey Wood. Is Abbey Wood. So, well, what if the silkworms need to eat dryads or ents? Good eating on those. Okay, so the abbot needs to collect ents, dryads, anything made out of vegetable matter, or possibly just anything that the silkworms can eat. They could be carnivorous. I don't know. That could be quite interesting. Could be eating pilgrims along the way. Okay, all of this is just adding in. This is just my journey. I want you to see my journey that I take. So the monks are not going to be good enough to A, look after the silkworms, B, go out and hunt down dryads or ents. So what else have we got? We've got the handkerchief of the Virgin Mary. We've got the brewery. Again, no help there. But we do have that mummified heart in a lead-lined box. That sounds to me like necromancy. And if the abbot is a priest, well, there is necromancy floating around there. So what if he turns to the crypt where there are a few interred individuals, and he raises the dead? Yes, I raise the dead. Yes. He raises the dead, and that allows for him to control the dead. He has the hearts in these lead-lined caskets. He can control these undead, and he sends them out into the forest to track down and kill and bring back dryads for the silkworms to eat. But in order to have set up this enterprise, he needed some money to begin with. Technically, if he sold the Virgin Mary handkerchief, which we can rename as the Eladriel handkerchief of the morning sun, some sort of relic of some kind. So he could sell this entire thing. Why do I want him to do that? I don't know, but I feel like we need to justify where the money's coming from, and it gives us a potential event to trigger for the PCs. And that's what I'm also looking at. So you've got this chain. Ghosts are attacking dryads in the forest. The PCs could be hired by dryads. There's these mysterious ghosts attacking us. Please find out. The ghosts take the Ents back to the monastery. The monastery feeds the Ents and the dryads to the giant silkworms using undead minions. Pilgrims coming along on their way possibly could actually... Well, it would be mysterious if they were to just disappear completely. So maybe only one or two of them disappear. The snoopy ones. Now, why are pilgrims coming to the church? They're coming to the church because they want to go and stay in the holy hole to get the blessing of the relic within that holy hole. If pilgrims go into that holy hole and they look too closely at the relic, they might find that the abbot has sold it, in which case the abbot needs to get rid of them very quickly. So he's going to feed them to the giant silkworms. Who works at the abbey? We've got the abbot, we have the monks. The monks must be in on it. They have to be on it. Where is all this extra silk coming from? Why are dryads being dragged in here in the dead of night and being sacrificed? And I think that the monks would be in on it if they were getting a benefit. The monks are going to really live that up. They're going to have better meals. Also, having ghosts do the dirty work might sit not so well with them religiously, but at the same time, life is a lot better if you don't have to do that. The novices, the choir boys, the lay folk who are helping around the abbey, I don't think they should know about it. Because if everybody knows about it, when the PCs arrive, it's going to be a closed case where, there's nothing going on here, nothing to see here, nope, everybody is on it, everybody keeps the lie hidden, the PC's got nothing to go on. So if the lay folk are like, well, we have noticed the church is becoming a lot more successful, and that's only on the fact that they're making lots and lots of silk, so much silk, my goodness. Wouldn't have thought one tree would have sustained that many silkworms. So that gives the PCs something to start snooping about. And again, yes, I run these conversations out aloud so that I can sort of not rehearse them for when the players come across the NPCs and things, but it's so that my brain is remembering, oh yeah, there's that angle. The ghosts themselves could be unhappy. They roam around howling, let us be free, we need freedom, release us, release us. The church could hire the PCs going, oh, there's been reports that the relic is odd. It didn't used to have little hearts with arrows through it. Now it does. Is it a miracle or a fake? Please go and investigate. So there's so many different angles, and that's something that I like to do. If you don't have that many angles, there are many things that your PCs can do to just avoid the adventure completely. Whereas by having all of these different angles, it doesn't really matter what the PCs are doing. I can trigger this event, that something is happening, and that the PCs, if they want to go and investigate, they can. And now I have the entire line. I know what the abbot will say to the PCs. He's going to be going, what? No, we're very successful with the silk growing. We've developed some new techniques which help the silkworms to produce more silk. It's absolutely fabulous. Now, can I buy you off with this very expensive dinner and some cheap beer? I feel like that pretty much covers all of the angles. We've got silkworm attack. We've got banshee attacks potentially in the forest. Or the dryads are just trying to kick everybody out. We've got monks that are going to try and assassinate the PCs at night and feed them to giant earthworms. Then we have the ghosts themselves under the control of the abbot who, will have to battle with the PCs. Then we have the abbot himself who is so desperate for recognition that he will do anything. He's killing sentient creatures. It got away from him to a degree. He's almost a tragic character. Except that he will not be remorseful. He will say, I have made this abbey successful. I have brought it from the brink of extinction back to life. Through me, everyone is prospering. Sure, a few Druids die, a few pilgrims are lost on the way. It doesn't matter. We are successful. He can be blinded by his success. Of the 4 main types of adventures, thwarting, collecting, delivering, and discovering, this could be almost any one of those. It really could be almost any one of those. Thwarting, obviously they just have to go and stop the abbot. It becomes a little bit more straightforward. Collecting, please go and collect the relic because the abbot is not showing it to anyone anymore and we need it for the parade. Delivering, please take this extra silk loom to the abbey. They're making more silk than they know what to do with. Or please escort these pilgrims through this dangerous area. And then discovering could be where are the worms coming from in the swamp? Where are the ghosts taking the Dryads? How is this church suddenly come to life and making so much money? Next week, we will be building the actual adventure in terms of statting out the characters and the figures, putting down some basic real traps, real riddles, real ideas, fleshing out this idea. But this is what we needed. This is our base, our crazy abbot who just wants recognition for his greatness and the giant silkworms that he is now growing in his crypt. What's your take? You've watched the map making video, you've watched the rumble around the ruins video. So what is your take? What would you do with this adventure? How and what adventure would you make? Leave your comments down below. It's always amazing to see how many different variants we have. Until next week, I wish you and yours the very happiest of adventure creation.